Hello, hello, hello. It's me again. I should have um a tagline every time I start my videos because it's always the hardest part of being in front of the camera for me is starting like starting the video because I never know what to say when I start, and because these videos are like off the cuff. I've got no script. I'm just talking. Um, it's kind of hard, you know. But it is what it is, and we shall overcome. I'm eating this I'm having jam sandwich, of which I've been craving all day. I've been craving all day, and now I've finally had the opportunity to have it, and it's, oh my god, it's good. It's good. But yeah, I'm back again, and I just want to talk yet again because I like talking, and I haven't quite understood I don't quite know why I like talking. Um, yeah, I don't quite know why I like it so much, but I like talking about particular kind of things. I like talking about life and things I've learned, and but I also think in part it's because I spent most of my life um just quiet. My phone's got low battery. Anyway, I yeah, I spent most of my life just quiet and not really sharing my thoughts and um my perspective and what I think and feel, because my um bubble of origin, or my household that I grew up in, um like that was not seen as an appropriate thing to do, a good thing to do. It was looked down upon. It was, you know, not only looked down upon, there was like consequences, of violence in my household. So I carried that with me for many years. And then I also come from a culture, a community that um that's full of shame, like full of shame and filled with individuals who, are always trying to um, one up the other insofar as for the sake of like self-preservation. There's a lot of gossip, and my culture is an honor-based culture, so the opposite of honor is shame. And so if you behave in a way that's deemed dishonorable, the thing that you're punished with is shame. Anyway, so one of the things that happens is if you're doing something you're not allowed to do or is bad, and if someone from the community sees you, then quite often what can happen, or what can happen is that can be used against you. And so when I started, part of why I'm so open about my life is that I never wanted to experience that. I never wanted to experience someone thinking that they can have one over me um, because of my life and who I am, and who I am is not acceptable in my community because I am like an ex-Muslim. I am gay, so those two things in and of itself, if I don't claim as my own and don't declare it and don't say it, it can become really dangerous in the sense that I'd be at the mercy of individuals, and who the hell wants to be in that kind of predicament? Certainly not me. Not me. Yeah. I don't know, man. These things that I'm interested in talking about, like being in exile, belonging, the consequences of being coming from a honor-based culture, being gay, um, like existing, people, relationships. I should really come up with like with an umbrella term that describes all those things. Yeah. One day maybe I'll be able to do that one day. But until then, I'll just speak the best that I can. I really hope you guys can hear me because I haven't got a mic yet. And I'm just using my phone at the moment. Because I really want to learn how to be in front of the camera. You know? I want to feel like I'm not even recording when I'm talking, you know? But it's all a learning curve. I'm learning, like with every video that I make, I'm learning a bit more here. I'm learning a bit more. I'm that much more comfortable every time I make a video. So it's really encouraging for me. But anyway, what inspired me to kind of pick up the camera today and record myself? Well, I wanted to do this for the past couple of days because I sort of wanted to tell this story about this woman I grew up with who shall be nameless. Because I'm not about exposing anyone. I'm not about any of that. So whenever I do tell these stories, which I'm going to tell more of, I'm going to get rid of all the identifiers, because as much as I dislike this individual, I also don't want to air her out. So, and if you end up watching this, I haven't aired you out, so, you know, anyway, whatever. So, this woman that I grew up with, her life is, from the moment I met her, I was always intrigued by her. You know, she's, she was very close in age, and, she was really pretty. You know, she had a lot going on for her. She's really, really intelligent. And when we were growing up, I used to be so just impressed by all the stuff that she had achieved. Because we're very close in age, and she seemed like she had her life all together. She knew where she was going. So like she had life figured out. And I always wondered, where does she get this from? Anyway, so she was like the ideal Muslim girl. You know, she was pretty. She was super religious. So she really took on the whole modesty culture. She was smart. She just excelled in all the areas that like one would excel in order to be seen in order to be received really well and to have a kind of social status. So she wore the growing up. She wore the big scarf, the big tent-looking scarf. It's called the jilbab. Um, and she's she was basically a fundamentalist insofar as she um, believed in capital punishment for apostates. She believes in the capital punishment of homosexuals, and she's was never shy about that growing up. And I would hear that, and that would be very confronting for me when I was growing up. But at the same time, I was Muslim, and I was just like, this is God's law. But anyway, that's not the point of this story. So, so she kind of lived that life, and she was praised by the people who were around, by the community. She had taken on that praise that comes with meeting the expectations of an honor culture. You're then honored in this way that I view to be dehumanizing. So she took that on, and when you're consumed or when you're love bombed by an ideology, and you don't check yourself, you kind of thrive off, and you bask, and you don't really think about what that means, and you bask in the glory of all that praise. What happened for her, she was basking in all that. Everything's going really well for her, and she's healthy, and she's young, and she's pretty, and she's intelligent, and she's ticking all the boxes, and she gets married young, and she's having a whole host of children, and so when she was the it girl, she was a kind of Muslim woman that she wore the jilbab, or the hijab, but it was always the kind of air about her. She said stuff like this directly, but her belief was, those that don't wear the hijab, don't cover themselves in a very modest way, are YouTube has all these conditions and terms that you can and can't use. So I'm not too familiar with all the terms. So I assume this word I'm going to use is going to be a term that YouTube algorithm or whatever doesn't like. So I'm going to use the word law, but so she would call all the girls that didn't wear the hijab, wasn't practicing modesty cultures, a bunch of laws. Now laws, when I say law, I mean the W-H-O, okay? So for her, women who didn't wear the hijab were just simply laws. And so she carried that attitude with her, the way she treated people, and she was such a bully as well. She was such a bully, and she would take up space because she was entitled to this space because she's this Virgin Mary kind of figure. But early on I learned that every day that passes, every single one of us are becoming a thing of the past. Every single day. And we're all going to meet our demise. In one way or the other, we're all going to meet our demise. And it's something that is mortifying. It's something that is tragic. But it's something that can also free us from the bondage of this world. It can free us from the bondage of being taken over by our ego. Because once you really understand that we're all going to meet our demise one way or the other, then the only option you have really is to kind of befriend our demise, you know, kind of get to a point where when you meet your demise, you're meeting with it with grace and with a kind of, confidence and a kind of um, acceptance about, you know, our own demise. But if you don't, then I believe the demise will meet you, and it'll crush you, you know. So anyway, so she, eventually, she gets married, has kids, does all that 9 yards, is quite successful, um, in that sense, and also in the worldly sense, but she's getting older now, and she's starting to become a thing of the past. She's starting to recognize that time is ticking, life's going on, we're all getting older. Things that mattered, things that gave her the social status doesn't really matter as much anymore. There's younger girls that are coming up now. And so she's now seeing all these younger girls, and it's setting her off. It's triggering her. Because those of us who are getting older recognize, when you're young, you don't recognize what it means to be young. Okay? But as you get older and you've experienced some things and you've lived in this world a bit longer, and you're no longer the youth anymore, and the youth are growing up, and you see yourself in the youth. And quite often what happens is the older people, some of them get really bitter, and then they misguide the youth. When that happens, it makes me so angry. It makes me so angry, because why would you not want to share the knowledge that you've gained? You made mistakes, but, and you may feel regretful and, all that sort of stuff, and you can't go back in time to change those things, but what you can do is share that knowledge. Okay, a part of me believes that's why we're here. It's to share knowledge with one another. But anyway, so, and then she gets older, and then she, she's well into her 40s now. And it's like she realizes, oh shit, I gave away my youth to this ideology. And she really bullied people and harassed people in her prime, for not being like her, for not being as good as her, for not being as perfect as her. Because she had bought into all the BS about how great she is and how, pious she is, and there's this strange thing that at least happens in the Somali communities. A lot of Somali parents, try and, what I call there are some parents, some mothers who are, and this is so crazy, but I've seen this. There's some mothers who are jealous of their own daughters when their daughters become the age that they, I guess, were in their prime. And I've seen this, man. Where, mothers will force their daughters to wear the hijab, and you recognize that, and they're saying they're doing it because, it's for the religion, it's for this, and it's for God, and it's for all these good reasons. But I remember knowing these women and thinking, no, the reason why you want your daughter to wear the hijab is not because of any religious reasons or this whole modesty stuff. It's because you're actually jealous of your daughter's beauty. And it's so twisted. So what you're doing is you're covering her up. You're covering her up, and she doesn't get attention, or doesn't just embrace her beauty. And I think part of being young is also part of being young. And I think one of the most tragic things in life is when young people don't have the opportunity to really embrace the blessings they have, such as being young or being beautiful, or that youthful energy. That a lot of times I see a lot of older people suck the youth out of the youth. I think it's one of the most tragic things that happens in this world. And so anyway, so she gets older and she's recognizing that, and then there's the new generation is coming up, and like I said, she's becoming a thing in the past, like we all are as we get older. And and by the way, and remember, she's an Islamist in the sense that she believes in the Sharia law and advocates for the Sharia law, and she's constantly being and she's political in that sense. And God is literal, and the Quran is the literal word of God, and we ought to follow it, and the Quran is perfect, the religion is perfect, etc., etc., etc. So anyway, she then is well and truly into her 40s, and then gradually over time she'd taken off the jilbab, and now she's just wearing the scarf, and she started to wear makeup, and she's going to parties now, and she's still an Islamist in the heart, right? But she's now trying to live the life that she could have lived as a teenager. She's exploring her teenage desires, or what she should have done in her teenagers now. And it's like, I can only imagine how much suffering that would be, because every time she's getting excited about wearing makeup like a little girl, getting excited about going to a party like a teenager, listening to music in the same way that teenagers do, I can only imagine how mortifying that must feel at the same time. Like, I can imagine it might feel good because she's finally doing those things that she's always wanted to do. But at the same time, she's, well and truly into her 40s, and is exploring in a similar way to a teenager. And it's like this ideology like stunts your growth. It's clearly stunted her part of her development as a person, And then she's a mother of 8 children or whatever she's got. And it's like, she's a mother and a wife, but also hasn't healed her teenage, hasn't explored a part of her that she should have explored when she was in her teens. And that's because she, bought into the ideology, that gave her a script and said, this is the life to lead, and you'll be happy, and you'll be content, and you'll be powerful, and you'll be on top of the world. So she signed that contract, and then realized when the ink dried up, realized, holy yeesh, okay, well, hold on, I didn't receive what I was promised. And she's in her 40s something, and going through what she should have gone through in her teens, and this is no judgment. A part of me is like, you made your bed and you gotta lie in it. And I say that because I didn't, I was always intrigued by her sense of confidence and sense of I know. But obviously, I went through my own things, and you realize in life no one really knows, and those who claim to know are just projecting, and the reason why they claim to know is because they don't know, and their ignorance in that way makes them overcompensate. And so, but that was me when I was, just observing her and observing the the confidence. 'Cause that's something that I always struggled with, because the world is so confident. Everyone is so confident. Everyone knows, and everyone has the answers, and everyone has got it. They understand. And I always used to be like, "What the hell? How do you, how do you know?" Because I certainly don't know. You know. And I don't know. I just want to tell that story about her and sort of send that message about, when if you give yourself to the outside world, if you exchange, if you trade your own sense of self to be accepted, then the inevitable consequence is always tragedy. It's a disconnection from you. It's a kind of bondage. You'll be, it's a kind of jail, really. It's a mental jail, and it's this whole process, this whole thing of fighting for your own authenticity and saying no to the external pressure, external world that is trying to make you that which you are not. That whole process for me it's like it's self-mutilation. It's emotional self-mutilation. It's a you know it's a mutilation of the soul, the spirit, and it's nasty. It's nasty. And because I believe in agency. So I believe if you want to choose the path of compromise and inauthenticity, that's your choice. You have the right to make that choice, and you have the right to lead whatever kind of life you want. But you're going to suffer. And you're going to suffer in ways that you wouldn't if you had chosen your own authenticity. But equally, if you choose your own authenticity, you're going to suffer as well. But here's the difference. If you're suffering towards your own authenticity, you can sleep at night. If you're suffering towards your own authenticity, you feel more connected to the world. You'll feel more connected to others. You'll have the opportunity to be seen and heard by the ones that are good for you. You'll have the opportunity to connect with your tribe is that much more higher when you're being authentic and when you're being your real self. There's nothing more, at least for me anyway, there's nothing more beautiful than when you see someone for who they are. You see them, you hear them, and they also see you and hear you. And the only way to be seen is to make yourself visible. And there's this quote by one of my favorite artists, Ben Howard. And if you don't know Ben Howard, you have to check him out. Please, please, please check him out. He's an amazing musician. So when he was deciding to become a full-time musician or go on that journey, he was studying to become a journalist. And so he wanted to drop out of his journalism degree and pursue being a musician. And so he spoke to one of his friends, and she said to him, I thought this was such a beautiful, beautiful thing to say. She said to him, not verbatim, but she said to him, the most beautiful things, the most beautiful lives require risks. And I thought that was so beautiful, because everything valuable, everything worth pursuing involves a level of risk. And so, being seen, you have to risk being visible to experience that to experience that powerful experience of being seen and heard, and how healing that is, and how just phenomenal I haven't got. It's phenomenal. It's powerful. It's everything. You know, and I spent many years, you know, hiding myself. I became an expert. I was the best at becoming invisible. I knew how to do it. I knew how to make that happen. And it was how I survived for many, 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 many years. But then in that process, I lost myself and I became really numb and I felt nothing. And that was terrible, and I remember when I was a kid, I was very sensitive, and I used to cry at the drop of a hat. If anything happened, big or small, I would cry. And so I remember when I was like 8, I was like, oh my god, so am I going to be like this for the rest of my life? Am I just going to be crying? Because I can't be crying when I'm a man, which is not what I believe, by the way. It's what I was fed at that age. And then, years went on, and then I turned 15, and I just stopped. And I stopped crying, and I didn't cry for many, many years after that. And so I had to work on reconnecting with myself and reconnecting with my own emotions. And today I met up with an old friend that I hadn't spoken to in about 3 years. And this friend, I might actually ask him if he'd be interested in coming on my podcast and talking about our friendship. But anyway, I'll ask him. But we were really good friends, and somewhere along that friendship, well, I was I was dealing with someone really toxic, really crazy, really insidious. And so they came between he and I. And so we stopped being friends. And then at the start of this year, he reached out to me, and he apologized for the role that he played in the demise of our friendship. And at the time, I had when I had received that message, at the time I had moved past that period of my life, because that period of my life was filled with a lot of betrayal. And then there was an individual that played a role in facilitating all that betrayal, who got between me and certain people I considered basically family at the time. Anyway, so I had dealt with that, and I had moved on, and I'm like living my life, and 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 then he reached out to me earlier this year, and I had forgiven him, but it was also the kind of forgiveness where I perceive, to me, my definition of forgiveness is being able to move on and not really process what happened, move on, and not looking back. And so after I had processed everything and moved on, I hadn't really thought about him. And then he messaged me earlier this year. And then I read the message, and because I had just lost trust in him, for allowing an individual to get between us, because we were like really close. I basically considered him to be a brother. But anyway, so at the time when he messaged me, I didn't reply, because I just was like, I'm not gonna go back. I did all the work to go forward, not to go backwards. And so I didn't reply to that message. And then months later, I was thinking about his message, and I was thinking about me, and I was thinking about our friendship, and I ended up contacting him, replying to his message, not the intention. I had not intended to reconnect, but I just thought, it would be the right thing for me to do is at least respond to his message. So I responded to his message and told him that I'd forgiven him, and that I had moved past all of that, and that period. I've closed that chapter in my life. I've closed that dark period in my life, and and kind of wished him all the best. And he replied, and he apologized again, and it was really sincere. But I still at the time wasn't ready to even have a conversation with him about our friendship, because I thought, is it worth opening up old wounds? Number one. Does it mean that I'm walking backwards, taking 5 steps backwards? And where my life where I'm at in my life, I don't want to go backwards, and I also don't want to make the same mistakes that I did in the past in terms of friendships and stuff like that. And unfortunately, at the time, he was a reminder of that period, of making certain friends and being wrong about them, and he represented that for me, Anyway, so then it was really respectful about it, and really lovely, and just said, if you ever want to reach out, and feel free to do so. You can always reach out to me, and Anyway, so then I said, thank you, wishing you all the best, etc. And then a couple of weeks ago, roughly a couple of weeks ago, I'd been thinking about him, and I've been thinking about that friendship, and I'm also changing as a person, and the older I get, the less the more I understand things are, complicated, and that's not me taking back. It's not me taking any of the blame for the demise of our relationship, and I don't. But sometimes people, even good people, make mistakes, and it's cliche, but they do. And the older I get, the more I appreciate and understand how profound cliches are. Like, if they really are profound, like you go through stuff in life. At least for me, I've gone through stuff in life, and then every time I've gone through something profound, a cliche has been able to explain that experience, and I've had a deeper relationship with that experience, and this example, this friendship taught me about that. Truly taught me that, sometimes people make mistakes. Sometimes a good friend is going to hurt you. It's not to say that you accept bullshit. No, you don't accept BS from people. You don't accept people mistreating you. But sometimes people are in a different headspace, and they don't mean to, or they just have their own issues, and as a result of those issues, they make mistakes, and it's just on you whether you're gonna forgive them for that or not. And and that's one of the things that I learned. And it sounds so simple, but because you can feel strongly, you can feel all those things, but sometimes it's just they made a mistake. And it's unfortunate that their mistake has affected you in that way, because it affected me a lot when our friendship ended. It really did. But I picked myself up, and I also recognize and know that people change, and that anyone can change. And it was such a good lesson for me to make sure that moving forward, that no matter what happens in with me and the people in my life, the ones that I hold dear, that anyone can change, and that's okay, and that what the focus should be is that if anything is to happen, to have the confidence and to know that you are going to make it out of this fine. And that's something that I learned. And during that period, I lost individuals that I had considered family. And I made it through that. And and it's like now, it's like when I think of those days, I'm just like, first of all, it seems so long ago, and as people seem so foreign to me now, and I'm like, I'm like, it's like I squint to even remember what they were like or what it was like to be around them. I'm sure if I bump into them, I'll remember that feeling. That feeling will come back to me. But it's like I have to really squint to remember what they were like, and sometimes it's like they were just an imagination, and that's also a part of life. Sometimes people who mean the most to you might in the future be just almost like a figment of your own imagination or a very distant memory. It's like kind of getting smaller and smaller and smaller. But yeah, I don't know. It's been rambling for about 40 minutes now. So anyway, I'm gonna head out, and I guess I'll see you guys soon. Bye bye.